Hello, the internet! It is Saturday, the 20th of July, 2024, and welcome back to the channel. And welcome to Story Time with Gives a Minute. This is me telling a story again to document the story, to preserve the story, and to make sure that the story... I don't know if you can hear that. It's really, really windy here. Can you hear that? Holy crap, that's windy. Damn. Okay, it's just dying. I don't know if you could catch that, but it's super windy. So the idea of this is to document the story, to preserve the story, and to ensure that the story doesn't get changed over the years, because this was quite a funny story. Funny and also somewhat of a dangerous story. Yeah, I just want to get this out there, and I guess it's a public service announcement, because this could have been a terrible scenario, but it ended up being not a... I mean, yeah, so we're going to laugh a little bit, and we're also going to be a little bit concerned. So the story starts on January 1 this year, New Year's Day. Now, to set the scene, I was sick on New Year's Day, not with a hangover, oddly enough. Usually January 1, I'm ill, but it's self-induced. This was like the edges of a cold, and I did not feel good at all. New Year's Eve, I was in bed before 9 p.m, or I think we saw the 9 o'clock fireworks, then I went to bed. So I wasn't feeling great. New Year's Day, the plan was to go out with the family and celebrate. So we're going to go somewhere down the coast. We're going to have a picnic. We're going to take Poopsie, take some wine, relax on some beautiful setting, and enjoy the first day of this year. So that was always in the back of our mind. We woke up on January 1. I felt ill. I said, look, I'm still okay to go somewhere, but I'm going to be the driver, and I'm just going to rug up and just let mum and my sister have a nice day. So we wanted to find somewhere that was sort of protected from wind, funnily enough. And the spot that we located on a map was not far from here, a place called Lake Conjola. It's on the south coast of New South Wales, Australia, for those that are outside the country. So we took a drive down there. Now, we pulled up into this area at this... It's kind of strange. You drive along a peninsula, you go through a caravan park, a trailer park for those Americans. You go through the caravan park and you get to the end of it, and then you get back onto a public road. It's kind of strange. You've got to drive through the trailer park to get to the boat ramp area. So we just kept going through. We got to this end location. I already knew about it because I'd been there as a kid many, many times. But we just wanted to go back and have a look there and see if we could get a spot down there. New Year's Day, it's going to be busy, right? We got there relatively early-ish, I guess about 10:30 a.m., 10 o'clock a.m., and there was no one there. And so we punked the greatest bench or picnic table. It had right up close to the water's edge, right next to a boat ramp, and grassed area, and parking, and a toilet block, and for me, most critically, it was sort of out of the wind. So it was myself, my sister, my mother, and Poopsie, the four of us, and we sat on this picnic table. I put my back to the wind, so I had a blanket and a beanie and a hoodie. I was shivering and cold, even though it wasn't cold. It was New Year's freaking Day. Yo, Hendrik, hello, man. How you doing, Hendrik? Hello, in the chat there. Yeah, this is a YouTube stream too, by the way. If anyone's watching this and they're not on YouTube, come on down to the town of YouTube. That's where we're streaming. I do realize I'm streaming everywhere else, but I'm not streaming on Twitter anymore. They banned that stream. You've got to be premium to stream on Twitter, or on X, so I'm not doing that. Anyway, so we're sitting at this spot. I guess I should show you what the spot looks like. I've got it here on a map. This is the area. So this, where my mouse is, this is Lake Conjola. This big thick line here is the main highway down, and then you drive into this area, Lake Conjola, and if we zoom in, Skins, this road is the one that runs through the trailer park, Holiday Haven, Lake Conjola, right here. And you keep going along till you get to the end, Conjola boat ramp. Now, this is a little bit misleading, this image, because that's not quite where the land ends. The land actually goes all the way around here in a big, I'm going to call it an isthmus. Oh no, it's not an isthmus, it's a peninsula. Actually, this image up here shows it better. Let me show you this image. Yeah, so this here is pretty much exactly where we were sitting. Oh, you can't, it's not a 360 image. I thought that was a Google, I thought that was a street view. It's not. Unfortunately, that's not a street view, but that does show you what I'm saying. So there's sand at the back here. The water curves around and bends out. And so what I'm saying is we're not right on the edge of the ocean like this would make you believe. If you zoom out here, it's quite a mellow, this area, Lake Conjola or Myrtle Gully, it's quite mellow in there. There's more photos here. I want to show you how mellow it is. You can see from this image. It's quite beautiful, by the way, but it's also quite mellow and shallow is the main point I'm trying to make here, is that it's quite shallow water. Yeah, so we're just sitting a little bit back from here. So with that in mind, what happened was we were sitting on this bench, I had my back to this water, we were sitting on this bench, and a family turned up in the car park, and they parked next to where we parked. And I didn't think anything of it, except that, okay, they could have parked anywhere because there was no one else really around. Oh, there was a smattering of people, but not much. They chose to park up right next to us. I was like, that's a bit weird. Out of the vehicle popped an Asian family. And on the roof of their car, they had a bunch of kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddleboard, canoe, kayaks, watercraft. And I happened to be watching because my back was to the water. My sister didn't see, my mother didn't see, Poopsie was off doing something. I happened to just be sort of like visualing them because I was sitting that way. And they really struggled to get the harness off, to get the ratchet and all that stuff off the roof racks. So much so that they dropped one of the kayaks and it almost landed on my sister's car. I think we drove her car. It almost hit her car. Like it fell off the roof and it went bunk, bunk, bunk. And then it was a big 8-foot, 9-foot long kayak, and it bumped onto the ground and then it fell down and it just missed her car. And I was like, geez, you didn't see that, but these guys just about clocked you out with this kayak thing. I was like, okay, no worries, whatever. Then we just ignored it and whatever, went back to what we were doing. I was feeling ill, just sitting there. These guys, which this information came later, but actually, should I blow it by saying it now? I guess I'll hold on to it. But either way, this family made their way around where we were sitting and got themselves down to the water's edge. Again, don't think like the edge with a deep drop. This is just super mellow. It's a boat ramp. It's a sandy boat ramp. It's mellow. It's placid. It's very shallow. There's no wind or a little bit of wind. Nothing. Not like today, right? Just so they're down there, and I didn't even pay anything to them. We're here chatting. There was another family or a set of families that rocked up, and they also went kind of in the same direction as this Asian family, and they all sat up on the hillside. And they were drinking beers. It was New Year's Day, right? They're cracking beers before midday. It was celebratory measures. So we're sitting there chatting away, and my sister, I hear some commotion behind me in the water, and my sister just goes, "Huh? I've never seen an Asian man with Down syndrome before." That was her quote. "I've never seen an Asian man with Down syndrome before." I was like, that's a weird thing to say. So I turn around to look, and I see a man, the man from the vehicle. I see him on a stand-up paddleboard, a sup, waving, like frantically waving and making noise, not English, nothing recognizable, but sounds of something. And because I was sick and because I was, whatever, I just kind of looked at it and went, my sister thinks my sister's a teacher or an ex-school teacher. So she's seen kids with Down syndrome. She's like, I've never seen an Asian man with Down syndrome. And I was looking at it thinking, yeah, I don't think I have either. And so I turned back around and we continued to chat. But out of the corner of my ear, whatever they were doing, it's getting louder and more intense. So I look back and I happen to notice that off to the side of his sup, there is a kid in the water. So there is a child in the water and there's a grown man on a sup. And at that point he was kneeling and waving and I'm looking at that going, that kid is drowning. I don't know how they're drowning. They're in this much water, but that kid's drowning. And I'm starting to sort of think, what should we do? Like get in there and save the kid. Before I could do anything, the other family, the other Australian family that had been sucking down beers, this guy just, because I'm looking, don't forget, I'm not facing the water. I have my back to the water. So when I turn around, I now have a clear view of the shoreline. This guy gets up like, I don't know how to, it's like a warrior or something, like a Roman warrior. He gets up, rips his shirt off, does that thing where you hobble with one leg and he's pulling his shoe off his other leg, and then he's hopped on the other leg and he's ripped his other, and then he's just gone. And he's legged it all the way down to the water and just run in. And when I say ran in, I'm talking, again, I got to tell you, it was not deep water. He just ankle deep, maybe 3 or 4 meters from the shore. He took one shallow dive and just grabbed the kid and brought the kid and the father, they were turned out to be the family from the car, brought them both back to shore. Now, at that point, the Asian man is, thank you, and really, really grateful for what this guy had done. And we as our family, we were sitting there, and I was like, if that guy didn't do that heroic deed, that kid would have drowned. We would have been witness to a drowning on New Year's Day. Guaranteed. And what it turned out was, we let it all, like the Australian family took the Asian family and they went back to their car and they helped them load their thing back onto the roof racks, and they took off, they drove off. And he had been speaking with him. So then once that had all calmed down, I went over and had a chat to the Aussie guy, and I just said, "Hey man, what took place there?" And he says, "Man, it's the same old story over again. These guys don't have any water clue at all. They're not locals. They just flew in from wherever for the Australia Day festivals. They rented a hotel room that had a package that gave them access to water craft like sups and kayaks and canoes. And so the hotel had given them this gear. That explains why they couldn't get it on and off the roof racks. They didn't know how to. That explains why they almost dropped it onto our vehicle. And then that explains why they'd never been in the freaking water before. And that's why the man couldn't jump into the water to save the kid. So imagine you're on a SUP, a stand-up paddleboard. They're quite fat, they're quite thick, and they're buoyant. He's on that thing, and somehow either the kid went out with him on it or the kid just walked out into the water. Either way, the kid was now in too deep, and the father couldn't get in the water to save him because the father had never been in the water before. So the father couldn't do anything to save the kid, and that's why he was frantically yelling and screaming. Well, it wasn't screaming, he was whatever the noise was that prompted my sister to think it was an Asian man with Down syndrome was actually him saying in his language or in his state of mind, "Save me, help me and my son." So the public service announcement part of this stream is, first of all, that's kind of funny the way it panned out. Am I allowed to say that's funny? Because it was kind of funny, but it's also extremely disturbing that you'd have a family like that would put their children at risk on a New Year's Day holiday. People need to be smarter, right? You need to be smarter. Like, I wouldn't go to a rock face and throw a rope over the edge and say, "Let's all go rock climbing." If I didn't have any skills with rock climbing, if I didn't know anything about carabiners and figure of eight carabiners, I know about that from high school, but okay, my limited knowledge is they exist. I know that they exist. I wouldn't take my family rock climbing if I wasn't fully aware and fully competent with rock climbing. But yet you'll get families, and I see it right here on Culburra Beach all the time. You'll get families that have no idea about the water and they're almost drowning. They're in rips, they're boozing up, and they're getting themselves in all kinds of issues. And that's why we have, to be frank, that's why we have absolutely shitty television shows like Bondi Rescue and all that crap, because there's so much of this happening that they can now monetize it and make television shows about how stupid some people are. So an Asian man with Down syndrome was the wrong call. And maybe if my sister had have seen an Asian man with Down syndrome before, she would have recognized that wasn't what we were seeing. We were actually seeing a person drowning with his son. Son was like 4 or 5 years of age. So that's what I wanted to come out on this stream and get this out there, because this did happen 7 months ago, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I've got to tell that story for 2 reasons. I want to document it so we don't forget it, and I also want to make the public service announcement. Can you hear that noise? Far out. And so the other thing I was going to say about this scenario is the gentleman, the Aussie guy, when I spoke to him, he was so he was like, okay, he'd had a couple of beers, but he was like, man, this happens all the time. Like this story is nothing unique. It's like, I just did what I had to do. The kid was drowning. The father couldn't do anything to help. I just did what I could do. What I could do was to run into the water and save this guy. And when I say run into the water, again, I'm saying 5 or 6 meters, water's like this deep, super mellow, super chilled. I don't understand, like, of all the places for someone to get stuck in kind of a drowning scenario, if you were at this place, you would not think that it's going to happen there. Again, look at these images. You think someone's going to drown in this? You can see here, that's sand out there, right? You can see how shallow it is. By the way, these sandbags weren't here. This is the edge of the boat ramp. But this does give you a good indicator. This little grassy edge here, this is where the Aussie family was sitting. And in this gap between these sandbags, maybe they were there, but the tide was higher, I don't know, but I think that looks like an older photo. But either way, the Asian family entered the water on this side. So the Asian family was about here, where my mouse is, and the Aussie families were up on this ledge, and we were sitting, you can't see, but we were sitting where my mouse is now. Why doesn't it go big? We were sitting here, but further back, just out of frame. So this all took place in that little pocket of area. And it's very it's kind of one of those things that happens that when it happens to you, you're not really sure if you just saw it or not, like, because it all happened so quick, and we were like, did that really take place? Did we just see a family that almost lost the lives of 2 of, like, if the father had have jumped in, he would have drowned. The kid was going to drown. Like the Aussie guy that saved that kid, he saved him there wasn't much in it, right? There's a fraction of time because the kid went, that's right. The Aussie guy said, what did you see when you were, like, how come you went so quick? Like, and he said, well, I heard the gentleman yelling and screaming and doing his thing. And I looked next to him and I saw a head. And he said, I saw the head go down and come back up. And then it went down a second time, and he's like, nah, that's a drowning. And that's when he was just ripped all his clothes off and legged it in. So he saw the head bop down twice, and he said when it went down twice, I was like, nah, this kid's in trouble. And so there is another funny thing, I guess. My mum. So we're sitting there, and all this had played out, and this is now in the past and whatever. And that Aussie family is walking behind where we're sitting. And my mum had a few wines, and she despite being a social worker when she was younger, she doesn't really have a very good tact with people. She meant well, but she, just the way she said it was funny. She's like, she's got a wine in her hand. She can't quite turn fully around, but the guy's behind her. She goes, "Hey, you're a hero!" And the guy was like, first of all, the hey like really startled him. He's like, "You're a hero," and I because he was looking at my mother, and then on the other side of the bench was me, and I was like, "Don't worry about it." And that's when we got up and had a chat. But you're a hero. He was a hero too. And by the way, I looked in local papers for the story. I thought that there'd be a write-up, some community Facebook groups and stuff. Nothing. No mention of this drowning. No mention of this happening. So if anybody's watching this that happened to be at Lake Conjola on January 1, 2024 and was witness to this, drop a comment down below, because this needs to be, the hero needs to be, we need to find our hero. We don't need to find him, but I'm just saying it needs to be documented, and the papers weren't going to do anything. I don't think anybody knew. I don't know what the Asian family said if they said to anybody. See, the other thing is they probably didn't even recognize what was going on. They probably just went back to their hotel and went, "Oh, good day, Happy New Year's." It's like, you got that close to losing your son. Hendrik in the chat, shit, I've heard stories like this a few times. Most Asians cannot swim. I mean, look, someone might say, dude, that's racist. You're not me, you, Hendrik, being racist. But I mean, in this instance, I'm not claiming anything. I'm just stating the facts. There was an Asian family and there were two Australian families. And the Asian family was the one that dropped their kayaks and couldn't undo a roof rack, couldn't undo a cinch pull, just messed up everything, couldn't swim, took their stuff out. Like that, it happened, and they were an Asian family. I'm not saying it's all Asian families, but that was an Asian family. And also, just saying, it might benefit just even a small amount of English skills. Just a small amount, just the essentials like help, please, and thank you. Okay, so there was thank you. There was definitely thank you. But there might be some other words that might need to be taught to either holiday makers that are coming into the country or immigrants that are going to settle in the country. Because if you get into a position where you need help, you need to know what the word for help is, because we don't know the Asian word for help. Hey Siri, what's the Asian word for help?
I can't translate into Asian yet.
Not even Siri can tell me. You see what I'm saying? There might just need to be just that small amount of Australian or of English skills, and Australian too, because it could be thanks, mate, at the end. So that's all I wanted to come out here and do on this stream today. Thank you for being here. If you like this stream, please like the thumbs up the stream and share it out with anybody that finds interesting content interesting. I know I do. I'll be back later on Kick doing a virtual vinyl stream. It's Regurgitator's second EP. It's called New. It's from 1996. We're going to do that at 3 p.m. It is now 9:27 a.m. I got some things to do. I'll see you on the flip side on the Kick machine for a Regurgitator and a homebrew. Cheers. Thanks, Hendrik. Thanks for being here, H-Man. Cheers, dude. You.